Yes. We're here with Terry Schappert, former Special Forces guy and Green Beret, really. I mean, we're going to get into the definition of all those things, all the things he's done. But Terry, welcome to my podcast.
Nice to, Tom, you've really kind of hit the big time. You have your own podcast.
Yeah.
You're on the television. You're an author, and you're the talented one on the team at Fox News. We all know that. So
I try to do what I can do. But I'm in the basement here, and we've got our broadcasting suite. And you are in your. Well, do you want to disclose where you are? I mean, you can.
Yeah,
right?
man. So I live on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. As I was telling you, this is a house that's right on the ocean's right that way, man. So
unbelievable.
I mean, walk out, and it's great because I adopt senior dogs, and my girlfriend lives with me now, and so it's like a menagerie here, man. And so we walk right on the beach, and in the wintertime here in Duck, where I live, there's nobody there, so it's awesome. You walk out on the beach, and you're the only human. You look up north towards Virginia, nothing. Look down south towards getting down to Nags, nothing. So I really love it here. I love the winter, and it's funny. I was just talking because I just got back into town, literally today, and I was like, damn, here we go. This vacation is going to start. So the winter here is awesome because no one's here. But, there's about five people that live on this street, full time.
What do you call them? The people who are there. You call them year-rounders or what?
I call them residents, I guess. Yeah, real residents. Yeah, I don't have a term for those people, but they're all cool. Everybody's.
I thought there'd be a nickname for the year-rounders.
The year-rounders, I just call them residents. And as some of them we've known, some of the folks have been here for. It bought this house in '82. We've been coming here since the '70s, so we've been here a long time. And this is my base now.
Some of the residents, do they get out in the summer so they can rent out their place?
Yeah, man, that's exactly. So, because it's expensive to rent a house here too. So it's like they come and they'll come in the off season, or they'll come maybe a week or two during the summer. But then I don't see them till maybe the fall. The fall is a great time here in North Carolina. It's one of the best times because the water's still really warm.
What's it like in the coldest? Over the winter, how cold does it get?
It can get cold. We've had a couple years ago. We had about 4 days where it didn't break 20 degrees, and that was catastrophic here because these houses are not made for that shit. So a lot of the ones, if they're not here, they winterize them. But the people who were here, I happened to be out of town, and I had to have Chris come over and run the water. And one time I came back and the pipes were frozen. I was like, oh man, yeah. It doesn't really get cold because I'm right on the coast. North Carolina, if you get a little inland, it's colder. But we do get in the fall. We are hurricane prone, so we're kind of due for one now. It's been a few years since we got hammered, and since I'm right on the ocean, the wind is what kicks the crap out of us. But
is that house on stilts or posts?
Yes. Yeah. That's how most houses are here in on the beach in North Carolina. Yep.
Yeah. During the big Sandy that was up here, remember it hit
man.
Jersey Shore. All the Jersey Shore houses, they were just these, charming houses on the shore like Cape Cod. They all got walloped, and then the building codes were you had to put your house up on the stilts, for future storms. They didn't want to, keep paying for these houses to get rebuilt and everything. But what happened was this building boom. They put the houses up, okay, but they built these kind of McMansions on the shore. They really went crazy, and I think they did it with federal money. I don't know, but I'm assuming that it was some kind of, they took the money that was for the rebuilding, and really the charm just went out the window. I wish they had done better zoning, but now the whole Jersey Shore, which used to be very charming, Cape Cod or whatever, I feel like it's got a lot of McMansions on the shore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. So when I was, because I don't know, I'm from New York City. I was born in the Bronx. My family's from there, and so I lived in the Bronx, and then I was a little kid. I lived in Levittown, and then even in Mahopac, New York. And so and especially in Levittown and even in Mahopac, we were coming to. We used to go to the Jersey Shore, like La Valette and Seaside Heights, with stay in those little bungalows.
Yeah,
and But it's funny because where I am, if you go north of me, there's a place called Kerala. It's kind of the end of the Outer Banks, and that's where the wild horses are. There's a herd of wild horses up there, and not a few years, well, a long time now, but it wasn't that long ago where if you went out of my driveway and then took a right north to go up to Kerala, there was no road. It was just sand. So and my town is called Duck, which is just a little fishing village basically, but it's over time what happened was they opened that up. They made a road, a 2-lane road to go up there, and that's what I call them too. You say McMansions. Like, people bought the land up there, and they put these huge ass houses that fit like 8 or 10 families, like mini hotels really, and no one's there in the winter, but in the summertime, Kerala, which is north of me, is just packed with people, and there's only one way in or out. It's a 2-lane road. So like, if I'm here during the summer on the weekends, I'm not leaving my house because you can't even get out, dude. It's bumper to bumper traffic because all those people are up there. In the wintertime, it's dead, but in the summertime, it gets crazy. McMansions, they're just huge buildings, these big empty vacant buildings, but 8, 10 families can stay there. So you start packing in a lot of people up there, and it gets nutty, so I can be the cantankerous beach guy going, move along, keep going, keep going. Yeah.
So you, I didn't know you were, I guess maybe at some point you might have told me that you were born in New York, but I want to talk about, because when I started on the intro, and I used to intro you probably the same way when you did Red Eye about the special forces, but I don't think a lot of people know what the Army National Guard, the special forces, the Green Beret, like Green Beret is really just a nickname, right?
That's right. We don't call each other Green Berets in our community because we just call ourselves SF guys, Special Forces guys, or group guys. You're in group. But the reason we say when we're in, if I'm talking to you, or like, if I'm on, with Greg or anybody else, like, they're introduced as a Green Beret because that delineates us from the rest of the Special Operations Forces, which is the big blanket that covers like the U.S. Army Special Forces, which is the Green Berets, Army Ranger Battalions, the SEALs, the Air Force Special Ops guys, Marines, the Raiders and the MARSOC guys. So there's the Special Operations Forces, and underneath that is Naval Special Warfare, right? And then there's the U.S. Army Special Forces, which is the Green Berets, and we also have Rangers. So, what happened was I was in college. I went to college down at UNCW in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was on my way to go to grad school in Duke. I wanted to go to grad school because I was I was a bio guy, and I switched my major to anthropology. So I did a lot of physical anthro, like osteology, evolutionary biology, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I was really interested in becoming maybe a primate veterinarian. As it turns out, as a career in the military, I spent my life with primates, and I'm one as well. But what happened was right before my junior year, I switched to anthropology, the end of my junior year. And I also happened to read a book about Mac V. Sog and the Green Berets in Vietnam. And Tom, I remember I took this, I was at a friend's house, and I was like, hey man, can I see? I knew nothing about these cats. And I read this book and cover to cover in one night. And what really marked me was not just the reading about the missions they did and everything they went through, which was harrowing. Everyone wants to read some books. Those dudes are my heroes. But it was the black and white pictures of these dudes. They got their arms around each other, wearing tiger stripe fatigues. They're all camoed up, and some of the pictures, guys were, after they came out of like Laos, they're missing a guy, or and these dudes got their arms, black guys, white guys, Montagnards, and they had these big wolf grins, these big white wolf grins, and I thought, these sons of bitches just cheated death, and they're smiling. So I was like, I want to know if I can do that. And, I had been an athlete through fifth grade. I played small-time college ball. So I was kind of used to the physical life, but I always like being
so you were an athlete in high school, but you never thought about the military then, or you did?
No, not at all, dude. Not at all. I didn't think about the military till I was almost at the end of my college time. Uh-huh. That's right. I was going to go to graduate school for anthropology, or maybe, like I said, primate veterinarian.
And if you're a primate veterinarian, where do you work? Do you work for like zoos, or do you work like?
I thought I'd either work for a zoo, or they have organizations over in Africa and stuff like that where you're actually there working on these animals. I thought that really appealed to me. And so I read about the Green Berets, and I remember reading they had, there's different jobs in the Green Berets. There's medics and weapons guys and, communication and engineer demo guys. I wanted to be a medic because the stuff that I read that they were able to do was pretty miraculous. Actually, they're training. They're basically doctors downrange. And so, so I graduated from college, and you'll appreciate this because, Mean Dads. By the way, I'm going to plug your book. If you haven't read Tom Shillue's book, Mean Dads, you have to read it because it was my childhood. And, Dad was a no nonsense kind of dude. He loved me, supported me.
Yeah.
It was really, but if I made a mistake, man, the hammer came down. So I graduated, went up to live with my brother in Vermont. He was in school in St. Mike's, which is by Burlington. And in October, I just enlisted in the Army. I was like, I didn't want to be an officer. I had a degree. I didn't want to be an officer. So I enlisted. Back then. There was no pipeline directly to Special Forces. You had to be in the Army for a while. So I joined the infantry. I was in the 82nd Airborne. I was an infantry guy. And so it was great. I was in a scout platoon. I went to Ranger School, Panama, the Gulf War in just a few short years. So I got packed a lot of shit in there. And then when I got back from the Gulf, I went to Special Forces selection. I passed that. And then I got picked to be a medic. So I went through the medical training, which is it's the longest course in Special Forces. And then I was in Germany.
So you got picked to be a medic and you still hadn't taken any medical courses?
No, because they teach you all that. What stood me in good stead, though, I was the honor grad of the medical course when I graduated. Uh-huh. Not that it means anything, but I knew how to study. I had a 4-year degree, and I was a science nerd in high school. Yeah. So I knew how to study, and I already had a really good working knowledge of things like anatomy and physics and chemistry. So I was ahead of a lot of the guys who had never even touched this stuff. And I wanted to be a medic, and most guys don't want to because it's a pain in the ass, but that's the job I wanted. So when I graduated,
medic. I mean, since I was a kid, I would watch these Army, movies and TV shows. And they'd always say, they'd be getting killed, everything from Black Hawk Down to whatever, medic, get a medic, even like, the World War II movies, medic, and the medic runs out and gets shot. Like as a kid, I'm watching these things and I think, who the heck would sign up to be a medic? They always call him out to,
Well, here's the thing. In Special Forces, in the Green Berets, as a medic, the job description is 18 Delta. Every job in the military has a number and letter designator. So if you're an infantry guy, you're an 11 Bravo. So that was my first job. The 18 series is Special Forces. So if you're an 18 Alpha, you're a Special Forces officer. If you're an 18 Charlie, you're a Special Forces engineer, the demo guy. If you're an 18 Delta, you're a Special Forces medical sergeant. And so it's our scope of practice is great. I mean, we learned dental stuff, we learned veterinary stuff, and when I was in Iraq, just in 05, 06, I was pulling Iraqi soldiers' teeth because I brought all these medical tax set books, and I knew the general anatomy, but I was like, I checked the books, I'd be like, I had guys come up going, Mr. Terry, Abu Nimr, which is my nickname was Son of the Tiger in Arabic because I had this big tiger tattoo. So the Abu Nimr, mushkila. Diamond mushkila, big problem. So I'd go in and go, I think I can freaking do this. So I was with a couple other medics on the team, and we started. Guys would come. It got to the point where I had to stop doing it because guys would just come up and be like, my teeth. And so I'm looking in his mouth. I'm like, I can take that out, and I have to evaluate. I'd have to look at that tooth and go, that looks doable. If it was like really bad into the root, I did not want to take it out because if I break that root off in his jawbone, now I got a problem. So you have to get in there. You have to use an elevator and you extract a tooth.
Yeah.
But we do stuff. I did a lot of veterinary stuff. So the 18 Delta course is quite long. And then when I graduated, I was assigned to 10th Special Forces Group, which is Europe based. And I was forward deployed in Germany. So ich war in Stuttgart für 4,5 Jahre. So I was in Germany for like 4.5 years. And I was on a really specific team that did like CQB and assaulting and that shit. But we were all over Europe training with like their special operations guys. We did some missions in Africa. It was a great life. But, I did like 9 years and I was like, I kind of figured, well, do I want to do this as a career? And I kind of felt like I'd checked the box I wanted to do. So I was like, what else do I like to do? Well, I liked doing theater in high school and college. So I went back to New York on leave before my time up in the Army, and I auditioned for all these acting schools, and I got into all of them. And I went to Circle in the Square, the one on 51 in Broadway.
Holy
And,
cow! I didn't know that. And that
yeah,
was what, late 90s?
Yeah, 97 to 99. Yeah, I got out in June of 97. I ETS, which means I got out of the Army, moved back to New York City, and I was in that conservatory full-time program for like 2 years. And I graduated from that in 99. And, I was doing well, man. I was doing a lot of theater in the city. And you get the obligatory spot on Law and Order, you did little soap stuff and some independent movies. Things were going well. And then 9/11 happened. And I thought, well, shit, do I go on auditions or do I get back in the fight? And it just seemed right to me. So like the month after 9/11, October 2001, I had done some research, and they had National Guard Green Beret units. There was one in Rhode Island, which is like 3.5 hours from Manhattan. I went out and checked those guys out, signed up, and I ended up going to a bunch of medical refresher training. I hadn't touched a gun in 4.5 years, Tom. I didn't touch a gun since I got out. I was in the city. And so next thing I know, by March, I was back in the Middle East. So so that was my cycle. Like I'd go on deployments, come back, and I was still auditioning. I got some crazy parts. Like I was the dancer, one of the dancers in the movie The Producers. Like weird shit.
I saw that you were in The Producers, and I never saw that movie.
You wouldn't, dude. You won't see me till the very end. There was a knife fight me and this dude were in. It didn't make the movie, but weird. And I got a lot of cool. I was a fencer and stuff, so like I got a great couple jobs at the Metropolitan. Doing like in these operas like Othello. I was a sword fighter. It's all these weird gigs, and the whole time I'm doing this shit, I'm working at nightclubs as the door guy. So it was a crazy life, and I'd be deploying and going on. But I lost a lot of auditions because I would go on deployments, and then I got a big break in 2008. A dude that I had been in acting school with was out in LA. He was a young guy, great guy. He had a big Nickelodeon show, but he texted me one day. He's like, "Hey, dude, I'm in LA, and there's some kind of a reality show where they're looking for a host who was good on camera, but was also some kind of special operations guy." He goes, "You're the only dude I know who does that." So next thing I know, I got signed with a really good agency. I had a small agent, and then I went to Abrams Artists, and then within like a month, I had my own show on history called Warriors that I hosted. And then,
so that was the official first series.
That was my first big thing, yeah. And then work begets work, and then right after that, they reached out to me. I ended up hosting Shark Week in 2010. I'm a scuba instructor. I want to tell you about what I do with that because I rehab guys, wounded vets, and we've been recovering remains over in the Pacific on a dive team. But anyway, so I did Shark Week, and then I got a survival show called Dude, You're Screwed on Discovery. That was my civilian job. So I'm still going on deployments and training thing and fitting all this shit in. And, things would go. I did a show for Outdoor Channel. I speak Czech fluently. So I filmed a TV show in the Czech Republic. And then it was like, I was done, dude. I was almost 50 years old. So I retired in 2016. And I moved down here to the beach. My wife and I split. I had no kids. I was like, it was kind of a tough time. But I got another job. I have a show now called Hollywood Weapons, which is season 6 is running right now on Outdoor Channel. But that's a really fun show. Like we test stuff from movies. I get to dress up. I don't care about the gun stuff because guns are boring. But like dressing up like, what's Kate Beckinsale as a vampire? Big time fun. And then, we recreated some stuff from Quigley Down Under. So Tom Selleck was a guest, super nice guy. Gary Sinise, we did a thing with a movie he was in. He came on. Bill Duke from Predator. He played Mac. And Nick Searcy, we tested stuff from Justified, and Nick Searcy was in that show, and he's become
I was just laughing at Nick Searcy was. I was watching the documentary by the Epoch, the Epoch Times. They did a documentary on China's influence in the movie business.
Nick's great. I haven't seen that. Nick's great. Nick doesn't give a shit. Like he's a bomb thrower on Twitter. I love him. He doesn't care.
Oh yeah, and he's also getting interviewed by the producer, and he said that the Chinese. He was talking about a script that he had in development, and then the producers came to him, and of course the Chinese were involved with Hollywood. In the whatever studio was going to make it. and the Chinese would give notes. They would say, "Oh, we'll make this film if blank." So they said, "Can the terrorists be Japanese?"
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it was just making me laugh because the way Nick said it, he was like, they came to me and they said, "Yeah, we could get the funding for this if you could make the terrorists Japanese." And he was like, "Japanese terrorists?" He was like, "No, I won't make them Japanese.
I'm not doing that. No." And if knowing my friend Nick Searcy, the language was probably pretty salty too.
Yeah.
So he's such a good dude, man. And so anyway, so Hollywood Weapons kind of it's on a small network, but it's on if people want to see it. I found out that there's that app Tubi, T-U-B-I.
I got it on my TV.
They have the first 5 seasons for free for Hollywood Weapons. You'll laugh, dude. You're gonna laugh your ass off when you see the show. We did Star Trek. I dressed up like Captain Kirk, and we're filming it at Vasquez Rock where they did the Gorn thing. Like, we had a guy dressed like a Gorn. I reenacted that awful fighting, and then we tested if you could make a cannon, because in that episode, he takes this like bamboo and he fills it with he makes gunpowder, and he puts like diamonds or rocks, and he shoots the Gorn and knocks the Gorn down. That's a great. Well, we actually tested, so the tagline for the show is, "Can you really do that?" So we actually recreated that, and then we did Die Hard. Like, I was swinging from a rope after shooting through a window. It's crazy stuff, man. I get to do some of the stuff.
Could you do it with the gunpowder, the Captain Kirk thing?
It didn't work that well. We had to kind of tweak it a little bit. The thing was, to make it in the show, we did it exactly as close as we could. Like, we took sulfur and some charcoal, because that's what he was doing. He was like mixing it. And it's like, it kind of fizzled, but it was like, hey, Captain Kirk could have done it because he's Captain Kirk. But then we let's use real gunpowder, because if, let's just say, Kirk was smart enough to be able to, get the formulation, and it actually worked. It shot a bunch of rocks out at the statue of the Gorn, and it was pretty fun. It's, the purpose of Hollywood Weapons is not to debunk a show or say, "Oh, that's bullshit." It's really to celebrate it. We just have a lot of fun doing it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And some of the skill stuff is, I got to make that shot. And if I don't make the shot, I just look at the camera and go, Clint Eastwood would have made it. So some of it's, we don't really fake that. And actually, season 6 is airing now. I don't know when. It might even be, actually, it might be this Wednesday. It might be the Matt Marsden, my friend Matt Marsden, the actor. Yeah. He was in the Rambo movie in 2008. He played Schoolboy. So he had this big 50 cal sniper rifle, which I laughed at. I said, we don't carry those. We put those in a truck. They're too damn heavy. But and there's a shot that he makes where he explodes a guy's head, and we're like, we were talking to the producers. I said, I'm going to call Matt Marsden. Let's have him come out and make the shot. And he did. He's great. He's a really good shooter. Nice guy. So it's a fun show to do. I hope we do more. I don't know. The networks are getting kind of blasted, with streaming and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But we've done 6 seasons.
You're saying that it's economically challenging time for these networks, but
it is.
The shows but these, from what I understand, the kind of shows that you've done, like these weapons shows and the everything, that you can really make those work economically, because the budgets for those things, comparatively to narrative television, that's so expensive to produce. Right?
Yeah, totally different. And they're not SAG jobs. Like, I'm a member of SAG, but so I still get these weird little residual checks for when I was on Law and Order or Person of Interest for one episode. I'm like, oh, I got $20, cool. But the SAG doesn't control this. So dude, you're screwed. The survival show was on all over the world. I never saw another dime.
Yeah,
Hollywood Weapons is syndicated all around the world. I think we're even in China and stuff. But it's I don't see that because it's not a SAG gig. So that's those. Yeah, so you're right. Economically, they're good. We have a pretty good budget, and some of the effects that we do, and the production value of Hollywood Weapons is, people see it that looks really damn good. And we have a really small team. I have a co-host. He's an armor out in LA. He's just an absolute gun expert, but he's a really nice guy. He's a friend of mine. He's got very dry wit, Larry Zanoff. And I have a sidekick named Pompeo, this little Mexican dude who's I'm constantly messing with, and he sometimes gets the better of me. We're like these 2 idiots who are always bothering Larry, hey, we got to test this. One example, we did a 70s cop show episode, and we had a thing where I'm dressed up like, Eric Estrada, or actually Pompeo was. And I was like, what's his name? Ponch. What's the other dude?
Ponch and John.
John, punch John. So we pull Larry over. We filmed it. I'm pulling him over. I'm dressed like Chips, and I'm knocking on his window. And he's like, "You guys are idiots." I'm like, "Sir, your license is expired." He goes, "You're holding it upside down." I go, "Okay, have a good day."
You are in a position now. Essentially, you think of yourself as retired. So this stuff is really whatever you want to work on, you can work on. You're not running down gigs to pay your rent, right? That's the idea?
Yes and no. I mean, because a lot of I did 16 years in the National Guard, and and 9 years of active duty, and a lot of that National Guard time was active. So my pension doesn't really. I just turned 58 in December. I'm going to start getting that soon.
Yeah.
If you're an active duty your whole career, like the day you get out, you start getting a pension. But for some of that's National Guard, it's pushed back. Yep. And so, yeah, I work all the time. I mean, I teach down at the Special Forces course. I work there as a role player in the scenario of the final exercise, guerrilla warfare. But you're kind of because I was an SF guy, you're kind of a role player. You can kind of move them along, like ask them questions and say, "Have you guys thought about that?" But the students are great. I mean, these are great guys. I teach out in Vegas. I also do. Because I'm a dive instructor, I got hooked up with a charity. Actually, I'm wearing the hat, Task Force Dagger. We do a lot of stuff for vets. We get guys at the Cleveland Clinic with all these different treatment modalities for heavy metal stuff, PTSD, brain injuries, everything. Mm-hmm. But every year we have an event in Key West called Dagger Dive, where we bring the guy and his family, so his wife and his kids. We get to use the Special Forces, the combat dive pool to do the pool work. And then we get them out on the reef and they get certified as divers. I mean, a lot of guys are already divers, but their families might not be. And, the way we look at it for Dagger Dive is if the guy's hurt or broken, then his family's definitely broken. And so they come down, everything's paid for. They have awesome hotel. We do everything for them. They just have to show up and have a good time. And then what's come out of that, one of the guys who came through that program went to East Carolina Maritime Archaeology. They have a great program. And he talked to their instructors, the professors. He's like, "You got to meet these Special Forces guys who taught me how to dive, and you should work with them." Next thing you know, we're working with ECU. This is several years ago. We started this in Saipan. We found a Hellcat wreck, a fighter plane that got shot down in 1944. My buddy and I were the first two guys to see it, and what was left of it. And so we started over the last few years. We've been excavating that underwater with the goal.
Where is it?
In Saipan,
Ooh.
In Saipan, which is in the Northern Marianas Islands. It's right across. You can see Tinian, and that's where they launched the Enola Gay from. So the Japanese in Saipan, on that was one of the last battles of World War II. There was the biggest tank battle of the Pacific. They had tanks everywhere. This tiny little island, and the Japanese threw everything at the Americans because they knew if they took Saipan, they would have the Northern Marianas Islands, and then they'd have a really quick, straight shot to Japan. We were bombing. We firebombed Tokyo. People don't realize this. The atomic bomb was awful, but we incendiary bombed Tokyo to the ground. So
yeah.
Anyway, so they.
I think I just saw Oppenheimer, and people talk about
that. Yeah.
But the uniqueness of the atomic bomb. But there was a great film called Fog of War. Who's that director? Errol Morris. But he goes from one city to the next. How there were hundreds. It was like hundreds of cities in Japan were bombed just as badly as the atomic bomb, but with conventional weapons.
People don't know that we did major damage to that country just with these crazy long bombing raids. But once we took Saipan, it wasn't long after that we were able to drop the little fat man and little boy or whatever, those atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So it was a really tough battle. Anyway, we lost quite a few guys there, and ECU had been doing before we got there. They had been using a side scan sonar and a magnetometer in like the shallow lagoon. It was like 30 feet deep, but you could see shit from the water, like something's down. But so you see it on a map underwater. It's like it's an anomaly, but you got to look at it because sometimes you got to splash on it and take a look at it with your eyes. Sometimes we found a refrigerator, but it's a big piece of metal. And then when we were dropping down on this one, it was just another typical, hey, we'll see what's down there. We're dropping, and I tapped my buddy as we're descending, and I went like that. And there's a 50 cal machine gun on the bottom. And I was like, huh. And then you kind of pull back your focus while you're hovering in the water, and you're like, holy crap, that's a piece of a tire sticking out of the sand. And then there's a bit of a wing strut. So you're like, you have this realization, this kind of explorer thing, like, holy crap, we found it. But then you also realize, man, we lost the guy here. This is where this guy died.
Yeah,
and so we came up onto the boat. We're like, you guys got to go see this. And it became, then we went, then we were all over that for that trip, you know, mapping it and running out metal detectors and trying to figure out where the most of the wreck would be. But we do this under the auspices of DPAA, which is the Defense POW Accounting Agency in Hawaii, the big forensic lab. And I visited that. That's quite moving, because you walk in there and there's like tables of remains, you know, that they're trying to identify, and there's pictures of guys who never came back. We always send our new guys that are joining the program through Hawaii so they realize the gravity of what we're doing. You know, we're working on a war grave. And so we've been back to Saipan multiple times. I do deep water stuff too. I have a rebreather, a closed circuit rebreather, so we can go super deep. Last time I was there, we were doing like
Explain to people what a rebreather is.
Right. So it's regular scuba, which is I've been doing that like most of my life. That's with the tank, and you have the hose, and you breathe, and the bubbles go out. Right. It's open circuit.
Yeah.
A rebreather is this thing on your back. It's got a tank of pure O2, and it's got something to dilute it with, a diluent. It could be air. It could be, you know, trimix or whatever. It's whatever it is. You have helium in there. And what you're doing is you're blending the gas for the optimum amount of oxygen to how deep you go. Because actually oxygen at depth will kill you. So it has to be, you have to have the partial pressure quite low. It's very technical. And you have a computer on your wrist here with these two big double hoses. There's no bubbles either. Rebreathers are cool because when you're on like a wreck or something, big animals underwater will come up and check you out because you're not making noise.
Yeah.
And I have a computer display, a heads up display on this little thing right on my hose. I also have a backup computer on my wrist if everything goes bad. So what you can do with a rebreather is you can go very deep for a long time. You still have to do the decompression. You got to pay for that on the way up, and it's very technical. And if you make a mistake, you could really get hurt or killed. But last time we were in Saipan, we were doing like 200-foot drops looking for another wreck. And I think now we have a trip now coming up. It got pushed back. It was in June. It's going to be in maybe August, I think, maybe. In Portugal, a B-24 went down off the coast of Portugal. I don't know if it was shot down or it was an accident, but they lost all the guys. They know where it is. They know where that plane is. And so we're going to start getting down there and start seeing what we can see, and hopefully bring some boys home from there too. The main thing with this, though, is we're rehabbing guys in our world. So we have the archaeology people. That's their science. But we bring guys in, we teach them how to dive. Some of them have now become instructors. We've taught guys how to dive that have had both legs blown off. We strap special fins on them. We get them in the water, and they become different. They come up out of the water with a smile on their face, because you know what I mean. And
how do they make the fins go back and forth?
Well, they have. Well, one guy I'm thinking of specifically he lost both legs. He lost one from below the knee, so like about. I don't know, like right below the knee, and the other one was right above the knee. So he can use his legs underwater, and he was like a stud. He was like a CrossFit athlete with prosthetics. But the main thing is, guys like us, our problem in our community is, where it's so go, and so action oriented, but it's also we rely on each other so much. We love each other, right? Because for us, love is it's a decision. It's a choice. It's not an emotion. It's an agreement. There's guys I've worked with. I don't even like them, but I fucking love them. Right. And that's the thing. So imagine the workplace, Tom. Maybe Fox is like this. I don't know. Probably not. But like when you walk into your workplace, every dude in there will kill for you. But they expect
no, Fox. Fox don't like
that. But consequently, you're also expected to kill for them. Every dude in there will die for you.
Yeah.
And you may have to die for them. So that kind of relationship, that kind of work environment, for that kind of tribe that you're in, is irreplaceable. Like all the cool TV shit I've done doesn't even equal that. And so when guys get out, it's really difficult because that's your identity. You actually, you have a real meaning and a purpose, and the big thing is you never want to let your boys down, And so guys who get like medically, like they get their legs blown off and they get a brain injury and they're medically basically taken out before they're done. That's hard. You're removed from that life. And even when I retired, man, I can tell you about it, man. I almost killed myself. I was in 2016. I retired. I was divorced. I had no kids. I was here at the beach house by myself right before Thanksgiving. And I had my old rescue. I rescue senior dogs. That's what I do here too. I take in cancer patients and senior dogs, and sometimes I have them for a long time. Sometimes I have them not long, but they become different animals when they're here because they're loved and they have this life. But like, I was sitting on the end of my bed thinking to myself very calmly, like not, oh, woe is me. I was just like, I'm 50 years old. I'm divorced. I'm childless. And my identity is gone. I'm no longer a Green Beret. And I have nothing to look forward to but physical and mental decline. And I'm going to end up dying in a VA hospital by myself with tubes in my nose. I don't want to do that. So I was really thinking this out very, very sort of coldly calculating it and thinking maybe I should go out on my terms. You know, I was really down. I had a gun in my hand, dude, sitting on my bed. Mm-hmm. And what saved me at that moment was I looked over at my dog, Rooney, a senior that I had rescued a few years ago in Utah when I was teaching a sniper course. He looked like Eeyore the donkey. The dog never barked. He just would look at me like this. And I looked over at the dog. I looked over at Rooney, and I said to this out loud, I said, fuck, someone has to take care of you. And I started crying, and I put my arms around it. I put the gun down. I put my arms around the dog, weeping, violently weeping. And I was like, oh, I would have destroyed my parents because like you, my parents are the best. And I thought, man, I'd have destroyed all my friends and family, and I would have dishonored the dudes like Brett who got killed.
Yeah.
We'd probably do anything to have one more day on planet Earth. And here I am fucking throwing it away. And so, that was the end of that. And then shortly after that, as things started happening, I got with Task Force Dagger. I started teaching for them. I tell people this. I've talked to guys who are having a hard time. I go, look, man, if you make it about you, you're going to pull the trigger because it's about you. You're going out on your terms. You're just thinking about how you want it to go. You want to go out like a Viking.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can't make it about you. You have to make it about still serving because we serve each other in the Green Berets. Like everything is about the team. So find another team, whether it's your family. In my case, it's volunteering and teaching, diving to wounded guys and rescuing senior sick dogs. If I can and this sounds really trite, but I really believe this. If you can make the world a little bit better than when you found it, then that's a purpose. But if you only make it about you and how hurt you are, and you're going to pull the trigger. So I tell people that I'm not ashamed about sharing that story. I mean, and it embarrasses me sometimes to talk about it, but I also know maybe if I can tell other people this and go, dude, I've been there. I've told guys, dude, I've been right where you are. I've been right where you are. So I'm not going to do. You
probably have seen it a lot from the way you were saying, the way you did your analysis there when you were at your lowest, and you said, okay, divorce, no kids, and all of the things that you were a master of, you were seeing them in decline.
It's all gone.
And I hadn't, when I think of that perspective, there's probably a lot of guys who are, very, very physical guys, whether it's sports, whether it's combat, where they think their best days are behind them because they identify only with the power, with the excelling. And as that decline happens, I think about mortality all the time, and I think when we see our parents, we think of mortality, but I have all these hobbies, like watercolor, like barbershop harmony, like a lot of my purpose is like old man stuff. So,
but it's a purpose though. It's a purpose, and it's stuff that you're really amazingly talented at. And not to sound, hippie-ish, but people respond to you. I mean, that you've written great things. You entertain people. You make people smile. That's a legitimate purpose, Tom. And and you have bad days, I'm sure, and you've got a family too. You've got kids and stuff. So there's all that kind of stress. But you nailed it exactly right. It's if you are rudderless, because I've never felt more alive or more important than when I'm in a situation where like literally my life could be taken from me right then. Like you can't recreate that. Honestly, you can't. And so that's why guys keep jumping on deployments. And let me tell you one other thing too. If you're in the military is a big thing, right? But the combat military, the guys who are actually doing the gunfighting, it's a pretty small amount of dudes, really. It's the infantry and special operations and armor and stuff like that. But like the tooth to tail ratio for the military is quite big. We have a huge support structure behind us, intel, supply, blah, 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 blah. But the dudes doing the gunfighting are a very small amount of guys actually doing this. And a matter of fact, during this GWAT, they kept throwing the same guys back in, and they kind of burnt the hell out of us. But that becomes your life. And the thing that used to keep me awake at night as a Green Beret medic, and then as I led my own team for about 4 something years in the National Guard, which is a long time to be a team sergeant. We just didn't have enough guys to promote. Every day I would think to myself, okay, how do I increase my team's lethality and survivability? That's all I care about. If nothing leads to that, it's a distraction. And I also used to think, man, as a medic, I'd be laying in bed going, shit, man, when's the last time I did a crike, put a tube in the guy's throat? Like if that happened, and you're constantly thinking about what you don't ever want to do was let them down. You never want to let them down. And so that's almost a peer pressure. You don't want to be the last guy in a run. You don't want to be the last guy on a rucksack march. You don't want to be the last motherfucker showing up. You got to, and as a leader, they called me grandpa. I was an old man, but I could smoke some of those guys. Some of them I couldn't, but some of them I couldn't. They'd have to work for it though. And it's very competitive too. It's a very competitive, it's a very, 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 very kind of, really kind of warrior tribe vibe. And when you take it away from that, it's freaking painful, man. And it's painful. And it really, we've lost in my community, we've lost quite a few guys to suicide. And these are dudes, I'm nobody in my community. There's guys that are so much better than me, so much more accomplished. I mean, like, you have no idea some of the guys that are working for you right now that are just absolutely incredible people. And it's hard. You take that away and you have nothing to, like you said, contextualize and be a part of. It can be very, 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 very demoralizing. So, I got through that, but it's, there's days I don't want to get out of bed. There's days I'm like, fuck it, I don't want to get up,
Well, so the dogs now, what do you got now in your home? What kind of dogs are living with you?
So Rooney, the dog who saved my life that day, he died 4 years ago today. 4 years ago. And actually, it's funny, man. I haven't been on Twitter a lot. The other day, I posted a picture of Rooney and a tweet that I put out the day after he died. And then I also tweeted, I retweeted that. I found it from 2019, but then I also put a thing on top about, basically almost a way telling you the story I just told you. And I thought hard about it. I was like, do I want to reveal that? I mean, my close friends know this, but I was like, screw it, man. Maybe if it could help some dude from doing it, or to realize that, he's not alone. So I sort of talked about how I almost killed myself, and the dog is what saved me. Man, I got such a response. I have to write back a lot of people because people are like, holy shit, man, this guy he went through that too, So it's, you kind of, a part of you feels ashamed, like, man, I can't believe I was so weak, but it wasn't really weak. It's just, you're just beat down. And again, I was very dispassionately looking at it going, I'm done. I'm just, all I have is mental and physical decline. Yeah. So, but the dogs now, I have an old bloodhound lab mix that I got. He had a tough life. I got him the week after my dad died 3 years ago, and he's still with me. He's downstairs right now. Hard-headed dog, but he's like my best friend. We have a couple other smaller dogs. We had a dog just died last year. I volunteer at the shelter down here in Manio. I haven't been there a long time, actually. Shame on me, but I used to walk dogs down there, and we had 6 dogs come in from a rescue that rescued 300 dogs from Korean meat farms, and 6 of them came to the beach. And I walked all of them. This female kept looking back at me and like sort of saying, hey, is it cool? Normally when you walk a dog in the shelter, they're just pulling because they're so happy to be outside. She kept looking back at me, like seeing what I was doing. We adopted her, and she became the matriarch of all these dogs over the last 5 years. I mean, it was just amazing dog. She was just, and she died last year, and it was hard. I've had dogs sometimes for 2 months, that have cancer. I know they're not going to make it. I've had dogs. Larry's lived longer than I thought he would. So and I'll always get them, and I cry like a baby every time they leave this earth.
Isn't it amazing? It's amazing for people who don't know that, they might, if they've never had a pet, but what is it about these dogs that get inside you like that?
Well, I think it is, you have another life that is dependent on you, that it's almost like, having someone on a team that is like, you don't want to let down. That's like when I looked at Rooney, when I was thinking about killing myself, I was like, dude, someone's got to take care of you. And I think that's what it is. There's this symbiotic relationship between dogs and humans. I mean, certainly canines have evolved probably from way back when we were hunter gatherers. There may be like, wild dogs or jackals or wolves that would maybe creep up onto the camp, maybe looking for scraps, but they served as excellent guards, right? Because they'll start barking. And I think they got closer to the humans, and then humans are like, hey, I like having these guys around. We just got to feed them. So our society has evolved with canines, and I think they're just, I don't anthropomorphize them, like people like dress their dogs in sweaters, but I do look at my dogs as my friends. Like when they come here, I don't make them do anything. I don't have to teach them shit. They have the whole run of the house. They sleep in bed with me. I take them for the beach. They basically, I want them to enjoy their life, what's left of it. But I cry like a baby, and I have a great veterinarian I have here too. He has a mobile, he's got a big RV, which is like a mobile surgical suite. And he and I always get into good talks because I was a Green Brain medic and I've done veterinary. I understand a lot of that stuff, so he can talk to me in a level probably most other people. But he's come to the house many times to put a dog to sleep. We're just out on the deck or on the couch, and I'm just holding them and breathing in their last breath and telling them. I believe too. I believe this fully. I suspect you do too. As a Catholic, we're both Catholic, good Catholic boys. We all see each other again, right? I believe that. I will see my father again, and I will see my friends I lost in combat again, and I will see these dogs again. So I cry like a baby, and when Larry goes, I'm going to be really busted up because he helped me get through my father's death. But I try to remember. I'm going to cry, but I also try to remember, just be thankful for the fact that I got to spend time with them. You actually get to give your heart, a piece of your heart, to another creature that reciprocates. And I think that's the bond with dogs,
Can I tell you about my mom after she died? My mother had cancer. She didn't know about it till the very end, but she survived. She got through COVID. She was unvaccinated. She got COVID. She beat that. And then I was out to visit her a few times. She came to see one of the Gutfeld live shows. And then she just went to the emergency room one day. She was feeling sick, and they said, "Oh, you got cancer. It's all through your body." She was dead within 2 weeks, right? But she had a dog. She had a dog, Ruby, for years. They had when my dad was still alive. They had the dog together, Ruby, in Arizona. It was kind of like they called it a Carolina dog. It was like a.
I know Carolina dogs. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like a dingo. Kind of a,
I know exactly. Yep. They're cool though. They're cool dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but this dog was about, 13 years old and, surviving to the end. Like it was an old dog. It was an old lady. And she, her last few weeks, she didn't want to get the cancer. They were like, we'll keep you in the hospital. She said, I'm going home. She went home. She died at home. But the neighbor would come and walk the dog every day. And, my mom passed away at about, 3 a.m. And then the dog walker came for the dog, took the dog on a walk. Ruby came home, the dog walker, sat down next to my mother's bed and died.
Are you serious? Whoa.
A couple of hours later.
Whoa. That tells you all you need to know about that bond, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's
an amazing story. When did your mom die? How long ago? So pretty recent.
Yeah, it was 20. Where are we now? We're 24. It was 2022. So my dad passed away in 2019, and then my mom was, she moved into a smaller house in Green Valley, Arizona, and she was just kind of living the life. She had her Latin mass she would go to, and then she. I spend a lot of my time with my mom. She doesn't want to live out here. I said, you come live with me at the beach. Yeah. Getting upstairs on the beach. So she lives in the Raleigh area and by herself, but my mom. I was really close. I was close to both my parents, but like my mom, I look a lot like my mom. I take after my mom probably more than my dad, but like she doesn't use computers. Over the years, I bought her like 4 phones, doesn't use them. It's just, so like, and she never, my dad, that old school relationship, mom didn't know anything about like finances or where the money was coming from or like mortgages. Like when dad was dying, I said, Mom, let's get your mortgage paid off. I don't want you. And I said, who's your mortgage company? No idea. And it's not because she's dumb. It's just because, that old school dad, my dad was a big, really successful IBM guy and that was his world. So, I can't
I have this. And mom was a great mom. I mean, she had me when she was like 21 or 22. So she even said, and my brother we're Irish twins. My brother's about a year younger than me. And she goes, I grew up with you guys. So she was with us our entire childhood. And so I feel like, my mom's so sweet. She's like, I can't thank you enough. And I'm like, Mom, it's an honor. You're not a burden to me. And my dad said the same thing when he was dying. He had a rare form of Parkinson's that was not treatable. It was called corticobasal disorder. And it was during all the COVID crap. And he argued with me. I noticed him years. I was like, he was walking and he had that weird thing with his hand and that shuffle. I was like, oh, I don't like this. I said, Pop, we got to go I want to get you checked out. I want to get him to neurology.
Yeah. He
stalled for a long time. And then we finally took him there. And then the doctor was like, yeah, I'm diagnosing you with Parkinson's. He goes, but that's not going to kill you. Old man stuff's going to kill you. There's drugs to attenuate it. And but the problem was he didn't have Parkinson's. It was something very similar. And so the drugs were not doing anything. And when we finally got a diagnosis, I got him. I couldn't go because it was COVID. Frick, that whole we can talk about how that destroyed the country. I was able to get an appointment to the movement disorders clinic in Chapel Hill. That's all they do. But I had to do a Zoom thing like this. And they talked to him. He'd been on drugs for like 6 months with his what he thought was Parkinson's, and it really wasn't getting better. And he did a few things and talked, and she goes, Mr. Schappert, you don't have Parkinson's, you have corticobasal disorder. And as soon as she said that, I was like, that's a death sentence.
You knew it was.
Yeah, there's no coming back. There's no healing that. You can't attenuate it. It's just going to take you. So I basically moved in with my mom and dad for like almost a year, taking care of him in the Raleigh area. I'd come out here and do some stuff, but I was always back and forth to my mom and dad's house. And even my pop was like, I can't thank you enough. I said to my dad, I said, shut the fuck up, Dad. I go, I said that, and he laughed. And I said, shut the fuck up, Pop. I said, if I gave you the rest of my life, I still could not repay you. So be quiet. He was like, okay, all right, fine. But I had, just like you, man, I think it's important. And I do, it's a big regret of my life not having kids. I mean, because that's the way it worked out. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's having great parents I can't think of a greater gift in life. If you have parents that love you and, they love you, but don't indulge you. Like, if I stepped out of line, I learned very quickly about that. I was given my boundaries by my father, you can do it the easy way, you can do it the hard way. And if I pushed them and I paid for it and I learned, that's how you do it.
Well, I'll come down there. I know, Gutfeld and I are we're doing Durham this year, but I want to get down there and do my show because I wrote a new show after my parents passed away. That's where Mom and I
saw you. We walked in there with Lisa. You were backstage, but I walked into the theater like in the front row to sit. And it was, dude, I felt like a rock star because everybody was clapping, like, because they recognized me from Gutfeld. And I said to the whole auditorium, I said, I just want you to know no one's paying me to be here, which is a big problem. And they were all dying, and a bunch of people came up to me. By the way, I haven't talked to Greg forever. Like, I was supposed to go up. Is he mad at me? No, he's not mad at me, is he? No.
Greg, he can't be. I mean, I imagine.
No, but I haven't. The thing is, though, the problem was last year, on the end of the summer, I was talking to Joan, and it was like and I had some crazy shit going on, and I haven't been on for like, it's probably a year. So I should reach out to him or reach out to Joan and get back on there.
Oh yeah.
Because, dude, yeah, Greg is the epicenter. Like, I started going on. This is where you and I met, but like, I was doing Shark Week in 2010 and Discovery. And I knew Red Eye. I used to watch Red Eye because, because I had insomnia and a bad cocaine habit. I'm just kidding. But like, so I knew Red Eye, and there was a really fun show. And next thing I know, Discovery Channel, to promote Shark Week, was like, hey, we got you on Red Eye. I go, oh, awesome. And I was living in New York then. I was living in a town called Beacon. I was outside of the city. And so I came in to do a quick segment. I wasn't even on the whole time. I think they stepped me in for like 15 minutes. And Greg and I hit it off. He goes, dude, you're great. He goes, do you live around here? I go, yeah. He goes, you're coming back on. So I became a regular on Red Eye with like, you, Mike Baker, and all these. And I tell people Red Eye was such a cool thing, man. It was such a like a, I don't know. It's like, right. It was this kind of underground show. I remember one time, Greg and I, it was, because of course, really Red Eye was just an excuse to go to Langen's and get drunk afterwards with Bill Schultz. But one time it was just me and Greg, and we were sitting outside having a glass of wine. And I said, you know, Greg, I said, I don't think Fox, because he used to go on O'Reilly, and O'Reilly didn't know how to deal with him. And I remember saying to Greg, I said, dude, when Fox figures out what they have in you, I think you're going to be a fucking star. And he was like, you think? I go, yeah, bro. And you know, and then not long after he got, you know, the Greg Gutfeld show. And I was very honored. The very first Greg Gutfeld show, like the pilot test, I was on it. It never aired, right? It was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, we did it in the studio and there was no audience. And so it felt really weird too, because there's Greg and we have the couches, but it was like, it just, I don't know, it felt a little flat, you know, because Red Eye were around the table. But yeah, Greg invited me to be, I forget who was on with me, but I was the first guest on the pilot of Gutfeld show. And I think, when they came, they had the audience, and I think that really helps the show a lot. I think having the audience.
Oh, it's great. Although that's what I loved about Red Eye was that we didn't have an audience, but we would try to make the crew laugh, you know?
And they did all the time. Like I remember what I said to Greg too. So I said, Greg, I remember one time I said, Greg, how are we getting away with this stuff?
Yeah.
And he goes, no one's really paying attention. This is like, no one's really paying attention. He was flying. Gutfeld was flying under the radar, like, right? And in this weird way, like he had this really cult following, but it was like some of the stuff, like so the second time, for people who don't know this, so I come on Red Eye. It was really great. Next time I come on, I forget who was with me. There was Greg, Bill Schultz, and me and two other people. And Gutfeld goes, hey, Terry, good to have you back. And I said, stop right there. I said, the only reason I came back on this nightmare was because you promised me a three-way with you and Bill Schultz. So I said that on Fox News, and I'm thinking to myself, how are we getting away with this crap? Like you remember all the crazy stuff that they did on Red Eye. It was really fun. It was really fun.
And we'd never we would never get away with it today, because people would be posting the next morning. They would be posting immediately all the offensive stuff. And then, you know, Fox would be getting in trouble. They'd be cleaning up messes because
they'd shut it down. They would absolutely just shut it down. They'd shut it down. They'd shut it down. But it was, you know, hey man, it was, again, you know, things happen for a reason. It was my gateway drug into being on Fox, and it was really fun. It started for me being on Shark Week, and then I became a regular on Red Eye, and, you know, they had the Arquette sisters and all these, the website. It was so much fun, man. And then, and it's real. And, you know, I'm glad too, you guys are killing it on the Gutfeld show. I mean, I haven't watched TV in a long time, but I know you guys are killing it there.
Yeah.
You know?
And I go to bed now at like 9:45. Greg is on at 10. I DVR it and I watch it in the morning, you know?
Yeah. Dude, how old are you? I think we're the same age, right? How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 57.
Yeah. So I turned 50. So we're the contemporaries. I'm in bed I'm definitely in bed before 10 o'clock. You know, I'm up at 5 training. Like I'll do like long swims. I'll do.
Oh yeah. That's before we end. I wanted to get what the training is like for you. I mean, what are you doing now?
So physical stuff now, you know, I have a really bad ankle that I broke it in high school football. I played college football. I played all my Army time. So I have to get my ankle replaced. I can't run. So I got heavily into swimming. I do, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which if they're watching, they're going to crush me because I haven't been there in a long time.
If you can't run, how can you do jiu-jitsu?
Because I'm not running on it. Like, you know, we'll start stand up and stuff like that. And I wrap it and everything, but I can't do pounding running, but I can fight from my back. I can fight from the mount and all that kind of stuff. And I actually, just until a few years ago, I'd wrap the hell out of my ankle. I was still training Muay Thai kickboxing because the way I look at it, I think for me, you know, if I'm going to spend at this time in my life, if I'm going to put in this sweat equity, like and put all this time into training, like, you know, I want to develop a combat skill because I'm getting two things out of it. I mean, like, so the CrossFit people are awesome. Like they're super fit. And by the way, sometimes being super fit is enough to get you through a fight, right? Because most people, but so I get that. And CrossFit is a great adjunct to what we do in the military and even in martial arts. But now, you know, like I'm old. I got a lot of injuries and stuff. So like jiu-jitsu, I have to be careful. Like I just I just try to survive these young guys just twisting me up. I just try to wait until they make a mistake and then I try to capitalize on it. So Jiu-jitsu, and I lift weights. You know, I've been lifting weights.
Okay.
You know,
So you wake up in the morning and you lift. What's the first thing you do? Do you run down to the beach and get in the water? Do you swim in the ocean?
I've done, when it's and there's also times too, even in the dead of winter, I'll put on a wetsuit and fins and a hood and stuff, and I'll do a swim down to the pier and back. That's it. I mean, that'll crush you. And then, you know, first thing in the morning, if I take a shower in the morning, it's an ice cold shower outside of my house, because it's just like, it's also it's kind of a bit of a keeping yourself kind of hard. Like I feel like putting yourself through some deprivation and some pain. So like there's times too, I'll be like, man, I'm starving. You know what? I'm going to skip dinner tonight because that way, if things go bad, I'll have been there. I'm not like, you know, because people being tired and hungry and cold turns people into cowards. And in the Army, that was beaten out of me. You know, in Ranger School, I was freezing and you had one MRE and I was so skinny. My nickname was Skeletor because I had like these birth control glasses. So I was a skinny dude with like veins in my head. You're so thin because you're just turned into a skeleton.
Yeah.
But what that does is make you a bit tougher. So I just, you know, I do that kind of stuff. And I'm 58. So my days of banging like, bah, 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 there's no reason to do that. But I still drill that stuff so that if I need it, I have it.
And lift weights, you do the score. Now, so essentially what I'm trying to get to is what should I do? Like I do the cold showers. I do.
That's good.
I like the Wim Hof breathing. I do the breathing and the breath holding. So I do the breath holds and I do the cold showers.
That's good. Yeah. Try to get, can you swim? Are you a decent swimmer?
Yeah, I can swim. And I haven't done that, you know, much.
I would recommend it because I was not a swimmer in high school. Like, you know, it's funny, like a good high school female swimmer will crush most men because it's so much technique. But like a few years ago, I started getting into the pool and just literally watching YouTube videos on how to improve my stroke. And you know, I have these programs for interval training. Like I'm doing hard sprints and then drills and all that kind of shit. I get out of the pool and I'm destroyed. And it actually takes the body weight off and that's my cardio because I can't really run like I used to. So I would definitely look into
swim. So that's swim. I got to find a pool then.
Yeah. So find a pool. And if you can't find a pool, I would also recommend, dude, get into some kind of grappling or something like that, some kind of martial art, because it's never too old to learn. And you're not going to get in a cage in MMA, but what you're doing by martial arts is putting yourself into uncomfortable positions. So most people have never been punched in the face. I've been knocked out. I've been knocked out by a kick. I've also been choked out by the nicest people in the world. But like when you have a heavy, muscular dude who's skilled on top of you, choking the life out of you, it sounds awful, and it is awful. But when you can survive that and sort of learn how to counter that stuff, if anything bad happens to you, you can actually mentally say, I've been here before. You know, because sometimes if people have never been in a tough situation, they get hit or they get thrown on their back, someone's, you know, charging them and grabbing them. That's the first time they've ever been in that position. And a lot of times that will overwhelm your system. You're just like, guys they shut down or they panic and they're done. Like, make yourself uncomfortable, train with guys. And most dudes in that world are really nice people. I mean, because they know they can kick the shit out of you. So like a good training partner is gold, and a good instructor is great. Like they're not there to beat you up, but you can keep ramping that up. And like I said, being uncomfortable is probably the best thing. I think what's happened in a lot of people, I'm speaking from a man, you know, obviously my choice of career was, you know, pretty heavy duty, and it was a lot of pain and deprivation and hard stuff. But for any average guy, I think, you know, if you have a family, like you need to be able to know that, hey man, they might get me, but they're gonna have to work for it. And so, that, right? I mean, they might get you. Like, dude, I'm 58. I'm not the barrel-chested freedom fighter I was when I was in my 30s. At my peak, we were killers. But like, if you can train yourself, one, you are a better human being because you're the man, you're the protector of the family. That's your job. If you have to, you need to die defending your family. And if you have no skills, you made it a little bit easier for the bad guys. And so on the job description as a man, you have to be able to defend. I know you're in New York, dude. New York's effed up, but like, you know, I have a concealed gun. I carry a gun pretty much everywhere I go. Even here, which is like not crime so much. but everyone's like, why do you need that? I'm like, well, you don't need it till you need it. And if you need it, then you're in trouble. So like, I've learned how to shoot, and,
can you take it to New York? You can't travel with that thing though, can you?
No, dude, if I mean, I could, but I mean, like if I get pulled over or something happens, dude, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. So guns are weird for New York, but I think that, again, your job as a man is to be the defender of the tribe, of your pack, of your family. So if you have no idea how to do that, you are actually, in a way, sort of failing in a bit. You don't have to be some bad mofo, because we're not. And also on a personal level, it's a challenge every day to get up and train and to get your ass whipped and come back, and just know, like, oh, I've been here before. I've been tired. I've had a guy choking me out. I've been taken down, and I don't shut down. So I would recommend, if I were you, I know you got a busy schedule up there, being a movie star, but like, try to get into some kind of martial arts or something like that. And there's no better time to do it now, dude. I would say definitely that.
I do. I need to kick it up a notch, because I do the work. I just do the workouts. I do yoga. I do a little bit of workout, but I think I need to kick it up.
You've got to make yourself uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're really not seeing a gain. And lift weights, dude. Like, lift weight. You don't have to be crazy bodybuilder weights, but like, lifting weights as you become older, it helps your testosterone stay high. It also helps your bone density. It keeps you from falling apart. So weights, swimming, and jujitsu. And next time I see you, you'll be killing people.
I love it. I'm going to do it.
You will. I'll check. By the way, I will check up on you. I will check up on you.
Okay. Yeah. We're at an hour now. This was good. We're done, man. We're done. We did it.
Anytime, brother.
We left plenty on the table, so we can do another episode sometime.
Yeah, anytime you want to talk about other dumb stuff, we can talk about the country. Yikes. Yeah. Anyway,
I know we can definitely get into some issues, especially if I get I'm probably going to get a nice Fox Nation show soon. You know what I mean? And then next time you're up in New York, you can do Gutfeld, and then you can come do Fox Nation.
Yeah, I remember they were talking to me about this, and it kind of just I didn't pursue it, but they were interested in doing something with us with our war remains recovery with imagine they wanted to talk about, like, you take a bunch of retired pipe hitters that are dive instructors. Now we're teaching guys how to dive. We're working with the academics. We all get along, and our goal is to repatriate remains. So it's personal for us, and we have all sorts of underwater footage and testimonials.
I mean, that's a no-brainer. That could be a whole series right there.
It kind of all went away, though, and I haven't actively pursued it. But I mean, yeah, I think Greg was even talking about, as a potential Fox Nation thing. But anyway, I'm just happy you're going to keep going, dude. You're great. You've always been really, really nice to me. And, I think you're a really funny, talented guy. And, I'm glad we're friends,
Me too. Thanks, Terry. And, I'd love to visit you down there sometime. I'm going to come down. Like, I'm doing Raleigh-Durham with Gutfeld. I mean, we're doing Durham. And then I want to do my solo show maybe in Raleigh or something.
Well, you let me know. That's like, 20 minutes from my mom's house. So she lives right there, and you come down to the beach, you come see me. We'll go fishing or do nothing.
Definitely. I love it. You can give me some swim lessons too.
Yes. Get in the damn pool, Shillue.
I know about the diving. The diving is like, my ears are very, if I just even go to the bottom of the deep end, my ears start to hurt. Is that something you can get over?
Yeah. Do you equalize? Do you do that?
Oh, I don't think I equalize when I.
Okay, well, I have to show you how to do the Valsalva, because the minute I hit the water, I'm started on the descent. Like I'm equalizing my ears the whole way down. Yeah, you'll rupture the eardrum if you don't do that. Yeah, you have to do that. But it's simple to do. I teach people how to do it.
But I get it pain at 10 feet. How you do 100 feet?
Oh, once you get down past it's the first 10 or 20 feet that's bad. And then once I forget, if I hit about 30 feet, I'm done equalizing. I mean, maybe every now and then I'll do that, but it's the initial change, because 33 feet of water, a column of 33 feet of water weighs as much as a column from the surface of the earth to the end of the atmosphere. So it's pretty, 33 feet is one atmosphere. So 33 feet's an atmosphere. 66 is two more. You know what I'm saying? It just doubles as you keep going. It's only the first few feet, I say 10, 20 feet, 30 feet maybe, that you're constantly equalizing. And then after that, it's every now and then you just kind of hit it. And I've been down 200 feet deep, and it's not a problem. It's doable, right. Tom. I can teach you. That's my job. Okay. I'm an
I'll
instructor.
do it.
I can teach you how to dive. It's not hard. If I can do it, any of this shit, you can do it.
This is great. All right, I'm going to post this. Well, I won't even say it. We'll talk after. Let me end the recording. Thank you, Terry Schappert.
Thanks again for having me on, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you.